Welcome to Season 3, Episode 15 of the WeCOACH podcast. I'm your guest host, Marci, Kornegay, Director of Membership with WeCOACH. And as always, we'll sit down for candid conversations with women coaches, administrators, and industry influencers in the world of sports. Many thanks to our presenting partner, Hollowell. They are continuing to level the playing field for women in sports, both through the technology they create and investing in programming like this podcast and Breakthrough Summit. For more information on how Hollowell is helping teams compete with confidence and make every moment count, visit Hollowell.com. Now on to our guest, Coach Sara Doell. Sara is the head golf coach at the University of San Francisco. She's a Class A LPGA teaching professional, a newly certified life coach, an NCAA Women Coaches Academy graduate, and can now add published author to her title of accomplishments as she just released her first book. I know that we will waste no time diving into all the good stuff as we take this conversation way beyond sport and uncover Sara's passion and role as a coach and the message she tirelessly projects to her student athletes and, well, anyone who will listen. Welcome to the WeCOACH podcast, Sara Doell.
Hi, Marci. Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor. And I love that you mentioned I was a a grad of the Coaches Academy. I almost forgot about that. That was one of the most influential weeks of my life. So thanks for bringing that memory back up.
Well, it happened a long time ago. I pulled it up. It happened back in 2012. So yeah, a lot of time has passed since then.
Yeah, but that was a way that I stayed connected to this program and this organization. So I feel very grateful.
Well, before we get started, I want to share an alternate introduction with our listeners. It's just sort of that hook, that thing that's like, oh my gosh, I've got to listen to the rest of this. Can I? And I pulled it from some of your information that I found online.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is awesome. Okay. So she believes in the law of attraction, that toilet paper goes over and not under, and that Charleston shoes should only be eaten straight out of the freezer. I completely agree. She has an irrational fear of frogs, is a loyal fan of the musical Rent, and thinks olives taste like feet smell, and you'll never convince her otherwise. And I'm assuming that's all true because it was in print.
Yes, and I have added peppermint patties to something that should come out of the freezer as well, but it's already in print. So just a little side note.
I feel like we have so much in common. And I guess probably the best way to get this podcast started is let's go back and do a little bit of background because we've got to kick it off with little Sara Doell, the golfer from New York turned golf coach. Will you give us just a little bit of background on how you started coaching at your alma mater, onto starting a program from scratch at Seton Hall, and now coming up on your 5th year at San Francisco?
Yeah. Well, I started playing when I was playing the sport of golf when I was about 9. And I played all the other sports, soccer and basketball, and I tried some of the other ones. And there was something about golf that stood out to me, being an individual sport where you can't blame the referee or your teammate for not catching the ball, right? There was something about the accountability that even at the age of 9, I don't know, there was something I loved about it. And so I just started playing tournaments when I was maybe 11 or 12 years old. And my dad or my mom would drop me off at the course at 7 a.m. and pick me up at 5 p.m, and I would just spend all day at the golf course. So that is where my passion started. I was very fortunate to play at Penn State, and then I went down and I lived in Charlotte as a golf pro for 5 years, and that was a great experience. And I didn't feel like that was where my passion lied, so I was really fortunate. I was able to go back and start my coaching career at Penn State and coach for my former coach, which was a really unique experience. And then they, like you said, they started women's golf at Seton Hall, which is just outside of New York City. And I had a chance to start a program from nothing, which was such a significant time in my life. And 7 years later, we had won 3 conference championships. The job opened up at San Francisco, and I have wanted to live in San Francisco since I was about 15. So here I am.
Prior to me joining the team at WeCOACH, I was at the other USF, the University of South Florida. And Sara and I competed against each other pretty often while she was at Seton Hall and while I was at South Florida, and we were both in the Big East prior to USF joining the American Conference. And, I can't help but think, but as coaches, I believe we learn a lot by observing our peers. And Sara, I always admired how your teams respected you. They always seemed to rally behind you. They were loose at tournaments, and they got better every year, ultimately leading to your first Big East championship.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, talk us through like the importance of building that strong team culture. And, you know, I can't help but to think that you probably look at them as humans before you look at them as golfers, and kind of talk through that process.
Absolutely. I feel like creating team culture and helping individuals grow, not just as a golfer, is really part of my strong suit. It's really part of my passion, because it's an individual, like I mentioned earlier, it's an individual sport that we make a team sport. And so, you know, we travel with 5 people at a time. You might have 7, 8, 9 people on the roster. That means there's people at home not competing. And so you've got to be able to create that culture where the people at home, yeah, they want to beat the people in the lineup and get in the lineup, but they respect their teammates and they're happy for their teammates, and they understand it's about having the best players out there representing the team at that time. So there's that individual sport turned team sport that can be a tricky place. And that's something that I've found really important, is to create team culture, to talk about what matters for us as a team, and also to celebrate the individuality of every player on the team and how they fit in that culture. Because, you know, you want to be competitive. Like, there's a sense of, you want everyone to really respect and care for each other, and you want to try to beat each other at the same time. There's a fine line you have to ride there between respect and competitive nature. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, of course. I think you're starting to allude to taking it a little bit like beyond the sport itself. I mean, you know, if you have the right things in place, you have the right personnel in place, right players, right talent in place, your primary goal is working on the people that make that space up and taking it beyond that. What are some of the things that you do to help take your student athletes beyond the game?
Well, I think it's about making sure they understand that the holistic approach to anything. But, you know, if you want to make sure that you're working on your skills, your mechanics, your technique in your sport, you also want to make sure you're getting enough sleep, that you're hydrated, that you're taking care of your friendships, your relationships, your spirituality, you know, your physical self, all of it. If one part of your life is off kilter, and it can affect the rest of your life. And especially with student athletes, school is really, really important. If they're stressed out about school, they're not going to perform as well. If they have a test coming up and they haven't prepared and they're at practice and all they're thinking about is a test or an exam or something at school, you know, they have to understand that it's about making sure they're taking care of all of the things so they can perform great in the classroom and on the course or the field or the court. And in their lives. I really, really hope that whenever I have a player come through a program that I'm a coach at, is that they walk away better than I found them, and they're just better people, not just golfers, not just students, but better people. That's really important to me.
Yeah, you mentioned that. So I love everything that you mentioned there. I got to ask, though, do you practice what you preach? I mean, are you getting enough sleep? Are you cutting out the screen time? Or are you doing all these things that you mentioned?
Try real hard. And that's something I appreciate you asking, keeping me accountable. I think it's about leading by example as well. And I show up to team workouts at 6:30 in the morning, because if I'm asking them to work out at 6:30, I don't want them to think I'm sleeping in. I go to bed at 9:00 so I can get my 8 hours of sleep. Now, that's not all the time. Everything is a work in progress, right? And so I think it's modeling, you know, what I'm eating in front of them on the road as they see, like, wow, you know, what food I provide to them. I'm not over there eating a Snickers and drinking a Coke and telling them they have to have their fruits and vegetables. You know, I try to model the behavior that I'm asking them to, because then they understand that you're doing it too. And also, they know sometimes if I'm struggling, I'll tell them, I didn't sleep great the last couple of nights. I feel a little off, just so you know, I'm doing my best, because you're a human and you want to show that human factor as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important, that there's that communication back and forth between squads and coaching staff. Yeah. let's shift gears just a little bit. Are there areas of coaching where you feel like you've experienced significant growth in your tenure of coaching, or have made, maybe those remarkable changes in the way that you do things versus, when you were starting the program at Seton Hall versus where you are now and where you stand?
This might be one you wouldn't expect me to say, but not panicking about equipment. Like, when I first started coaching, someone said to me, "What's the worst part of your job?" And I'm like, I don't want to say what the worst part of my job is, because then whenever I'm doing it, I'm going to think that's the worst part of my job. But I used to always joke, equipment was always a struggle. Is the shirts don't fit right, or whatever company is doesn't have the right sizes or the right color, or the bags come in late, and I started to realize, I use that as an example, but I don't panic about things like that anymore. Everything is figure outable. And that's the stuff, is the little things like equipment, like if all of a sudden our tea time that we had got canceled without me knowing, and we all of a sudden don't have a place to practice, you just figure it out. You shift and you pivot. And when I first started coaching, I feel like I was very rigid. And I am very, very organized. I learned that from my dad. And I've always kind of lived life by a calendar and a schedule and an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm learning as I go on that pivoting is a very, very important thing to have as a coach, as a player, as a human, because life does not, this last year and a half has shown us, going through COVID, life does not always go as planned. And so are you able to pivot and shift how you do things, or shift your goals, shift the way you do things to be able to get to where you want to go? And I think that's the one thing. You asked me the question, I wrote down in big letters, not panicking. That is what I've gotten better at.
Well, that's awesome, because I remember us both being young coaches, 10 years ago, coaching and trying to figure it out. But like you said, everything is figure outable. What are maybe some things that keep you up at night right now in terms of coaching that maybe weren't even a thought back then?
Interesting question, because right away I can't think of anything around coaching that keeps me up at night. And I don't want that to come off as like I have it all figured out, because I certainly don't. I think it's because I've created self-care routines that if I do wake up in the middle of the night, like in the middle of the night, you wake up and you realize you forgot how to spell a word because it's the middle of the night. And you're like, I can't even remember like what day it is. And you kind of get in that mode of your brain turning over and over. I feel like I have some tools to combat that. And I've done a lot of meditation, a lot of journaling, a lot of breath work over the last couple of years. So if something does wake me up, I don't feel like it keeps me up.
Would you say that you see a lot of younger coaches out there today that maybe struggle with some of those same type panicky thoughts that, it's really small change in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually am fortunate to mentor a couple of first-year coaches, second-year coaches, not just in golf and other sports. And that is something I do see is the little things turn into these huge problems. And there's this sense around, am I going to be good enough? What if we don't win? What if this? What if that? Like the what ifs going down the negative. And I've seen that. And sometimes I help talk some coaches out of that. Like, well, what if you won? What if everything went great? What if, and you try to switch the mindset. And also, the new coaches that are just starting, they have to go through that process of having a tough year, or having a tough semester, or having a difficult student athlete, or a difficult boss, or whatever it is. Because that makes you stronger later to realize, oh, well, remember year one when that happened? Okay, this is 12 years later and I can handle this. I think that's important to have the experience.
No, you're completely right. And also having the know-it-all to go and find a mentor, such as yourself, or an experienced coach. It doesn't have to be in the same sport, but just somebody that you can reach out to and say, is this normal to have these thoughts and these feelings, and talk through it. And you really get on a speedy path that way. That's what I have found through mentoring, is you can figure all this stuff out, but why waste the time if you have the resources and other people and reach out?
Yeah. And I think that's super important for new coaches too, is to know you didn't get to where you are in your sport by yourself. You had a coach, you had a personal trainer, you had a dietitian, you had your family, you had whoever it was that helped you get to where you are. Sometimes we then start coaching and we feel like we have to do it all ourselves. And that's something that about 5 years into my head coaching career, I actually came across a life coach, a coach for athletic coaches. Her name's Erica Kwam. I've been working with her for 8 years. I had a call with her this morning, actually. Mm-hmm. And that was super helpful for me she was a college swim coach, and most of her clientele are swim coaches. And I have been in many programs with her where I've had all these connections with all these other coaches. And it's the same with like working with people in WeCOACH. I've done the mentor program with you before, and realizing that I don't know if it's still the phrase like, coaching is A to Z, except the X's and O's change, right? But depending on the sport. And so it's knowing that you need support and you can't do it on your own, and being okay to reach out and say, hey, listen, this is happening. I'm struggling with this. Can I get some advice, or can I just talk this out? It's super important.
All right. I'm going to throw you this really, really big question out there, and you can take it any direction you want to, but I have a feeling it's going to maybe move us into the direction of talking about life coaching and some of the
I just got so excited that I nailed my knee on my desk. So let's do this.
Perfect. It's okay if you need to stand up too, get the energy going. It's fine, because this is some exciting stuff. It really is. All right. So this big, hairy question I want to ask you is, what is your purpose, and how did you come to it?
What is my purpose? It makes me think of my superpower statement that I've done in the past. Basically, my purpose as a coach, whether it is being a college coach or now that I am a life coach as well, is to help support and guide others to find their true passions, to live their best life. And there is something so special about 5 years after someone graduates, they come back and they text you or they call you, or they're on campus and they ask to go out to lunch, and you get to see how they've grown. You get to see what they've done, partly because of the relationship you developed with them and how you mentored them. Like that is gold for me, is just knowing that. And it's not about getting a thank you. Like, it's not about a pat on the back for me. It's seeing that my experience or my coaching and the way that I was able to connect with someone else has helped them move on and be their best selves, which has then helped them help someone else. It's like that ripple effect. Like, I think that's my big purpose, is to really just to guide others. And as I say it, I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but that's it, is to help others.
Yeah, no, there's nothing cheesy about that. And you're right. It's something about when you provide enough tools for them to go back and form a thought on their own based on the platform and foundation that you provided, right?
Yeah. I actually had if I can share a quick story,
please,
in that space. I had a student athlete at my last job who, when we were, coachy, if you will, we had a couple of head-to-heads. We had a couple of times where I really had to push her because I knew that she was not showing up as her complete self. So we had a couple of those disagreements that are not fun, that are very uncomfortable. She graduated, and 5 years later, she got married and asked me to speak in her wedding. And those are the things where you're like, oh my gosh, I really had an effect that I thought I did, but I wasn't sure. And then there was only like 2 people in her wedding, and I was one of them. I was like, this is like, what an honor, right? Like, that's the stuff that, just knowing that they were able to take some of the stuff, even the hard stuff, when you had to push them, when it's uncomfortable, to say, you're not getting it done, and what is going on? Let's talk this out. Like, that's the stuff that is really important.
Yeah. So, Sarah, when did you know that you wanted to become a life coach? Because I feel as a sport coach, as a golf coach, and now as a life coach, you are like totally double dipping into the cookie jar of good feels. Like, you've got double the opportunity to feel these things. So when did you know you wanted to become a life coach?
I mentioned Erica, my coach I've worked with for quite some time. I want to say 3 or 4 years into working with her, I thought, what do I want to do when I retire from college coaching? I would love to do something like what she does. And so I want to say 3 years ago, I sat down with her. I do a summit with her group every year where we get together a bunch of coaches from different sports and really just share ideas. And do a lot of self-discovery and a lot of discovery for your team. And I asked her to go out to lunch, and I sat with her and I asked her all the questions about life coaching and what does this look like and how do you create this and how do you start a business? And it was overwhelming thinking about it. And then later that year, I just Googled life coach certification in San Francisco, and the Courageous Living Coach certification came up. I watched the video, I applied, I got accepted. I talked to the founder and the CEO and was totally sold and just kept moving forward from there. And I started the life coaching in the beginning of 2020, and then we all know what happened in 2020. So it was like, you asked what my purpose was earlier. I feel like life coaching was my purpose of 2020 because I didn't have a team to coach in person for the entire year. And I don't know, it's just been it just really complements college coaching because you've been a coach, and a lot of people who listen to this are coaches. We're more than just sport coaches. I really feel like we are life coaches in a certain way. So why not, for me, it was like, why not get a certificate to help me become an even better coach for the college coaches? For the college athletes, and then have the chance to work with clients on the side during some of the quieter times. So yeah, I don't know. I just love it so much.
You're talking about 2020 and the shift and everything. So did you just like receive this notice in the sky or a fortune cookie that suggested you just need to buckle up, Buttercup, because you've got to make the most out of your pandemic? I mean, you've been extremely busy. You've got life coaching certification finalizing. You are I think you've co-created a podcast called The Best Parts Podcast. And then there's this book that's dangling over you too. I mean, there's a lot going on this past year.
Well, I'll have to say, so I applied for the life coaching certificate in 2019, and the program started in January of 2020. And I knew that I had it set up. I knew that it was going to be a very busy spring for me doing the education while being a college coach in the prime of our season. March 10th hit, March 12th, whatever it was, and sports ended. And all of a sudden I had all of this free time that I was not planning to have. So I feel like my life coaching kind of passion project just accelerated because I had almost an entire year until the team was fully back together again to use that extra time. We were on a dead period. I couldn't recruit. The only thing I could do was like campus FaceTime tours and phone calls and Zoom calls. And that was really all that we could do. So I even didn't have where I was going on the road. So I just decided with all of this free time, 2020 was difficult and I had moments that were hard and weeks that were hard, but I just said, I'm going to use this time. I'm going to push forward my business faster than I thought I was going to. I'm going to be super active on social media. And this book that has been sitting on my hard drive, let's do it. And it just, honestly, all of that kept me from getting into like a state of, and I don't use this phrase like loosely, like a state of depression. Like I could easily go, I think we all had a little bit of depression and anxiety at different levels, or a lot of people did over the last year. This helped me just, keep going. And it helped me unpack a lot of my stuff and helped me be a better college coach throughout this process as well. And I don't know, you've known me for a long time. I'm an all in, all the time kind of person. So I was like, I'm just going to use this time to work out in my kitchen and do all the things that how else are we going to get through 2020?
I don't know. I was sitting back scrolling through sourdough recipes and you're over here writing a book. I love the title of it. It's called Your Future Self Will Thank You, a book for you, by me, about you, told through stories about me. It took me a minute to wrap my brain around that. I read the book, astoundingly relatable. It's part serious, part difficult lessons. These double doses of humor and wisdom creep in. And all of it's from your experiences and lessons that you're sharing to your 13-year-old self and, of course, to the rest of the world. It's super cool. Where did you come up with the title?
Actually, I don't know if I've ever said this out loud before, so here we go.
Breaking news.
It's breaking news. When I worked at Seton Hall, I lived in Brooklyn. And so I had the drive, 45 minutes to an hour each way. And I remember one morning, it must have been like 6:30 in the morning, I'm driving into the office and I saw a billboard on 280 South headed towards Seton Hall that said, "Make your future self proud." And I wrote it down in my little journal when I got to campus, and I still have that piece of paper. So there was something about the future self that really hit me, and I started bringing that into my college coaching. And as I started writing the book, I played around. I have this sheet of like 90 different chapters or titles that I wanted for the book, and that's the one that just came forward. Is I shifted from "Make your future self proud," which is what I was going to do, to thinking about, well, what would your future self want? Like, let your future self thank you. So it's a mix of that.
Wow.
That billboard. I also didn't want to steal not that billboard owned the rights to "Make your future self proud," but I wanted to take it in a little different direction.
Yeah, we'll make it yours. So, Sarah, you start off this book with what I would probably call a love note to your 13-year-old self, preparing her for what's to come, and let's just say her early 40s, right? I mean, these are sort of ways that you have created a book, created content, but this is the way you live your life and how you coach your student athletes.
Yeah. Well, the book itself, if I can share what it's steeped in, when I became a head coach, I honestly felt that, well, we do a really great job of teaching our student athletes things like how to hit a putt, how to do a clean and jerk in the gym, how to, set your class schedule. Here's your itinerary, all of the things. We do a lot for them. We teach them a lot. I just sometimes felt like we don't always prepare them for the real world after college. Mm-hmm. And, I think it's like 0.001% of student athletes go professional in their sport. Mm-hmm. And so I just decided I want to be the best golf coach I can be, and I want to help them in their life as well. So I started a program called Real Life 101, for a couple years into my head coaching career. And it's for spring semester seniors on the teams that I coached. And it was several different sessions, from like a money management session to a cooking session to life lessons with coach. And then right after season is over, I do a former student athlete panel where some former student athletes that they may or may not know come and tell them, like, you just went from being a student athlete to not overnight. So now what? And I was actually telling this I have a therapist in Brooklyn who I've worked with for several years. And I was telling her about this program, and she said, why don't you write a book out of the life lessons part of that? And I was like, that's a really good idea. So that's the first time it becoming a book was in my head. And then, 3 years later is when I actually started writing it. And so that's the thing is taking, it's 18 chapters because there's 18 holes in golf. And it's 17 life lessons plus the 18th chapter is kind of like quick hits, like wear sunscreen, right? But each lesson is just something that I've really learned, and then just really sharing how I learned it. That's the vulnerable part, is I share some things that are vulnerable. And I think that's what makes it so relatable. It's not just like wear sunscreen. It's like wear sunscreen because someone I know got cancer from not wearing sunscreen. And you give things, you give reasons behind it, and you share your experience. Or that's what I've done, is I've shared my experience, and then how you as the reader can live that experience. And it's steeped in what I've tried to teach the student athletes. And I just decided I want it in book form because I want to give it to all the seniors when they graduate. So yeah. That's kind of where it's come from.
Well, I mean, that's a great point that you made about the whole wear the sunscreen example, because I mean, that's where our student athletes are right now. I mean, they can get their information anywhere in the world. It's not just coming from their coach. It's coming from everywhere. But if you have a story or a real reason for them that they can comprehend and chew on it a little bit, it means a little bit more. And then they take that lesson on and you continue to pass them. Sarah, do you have a favorite lesson that you shared in the book, or?
I have about 5. I will share the one I think is relatable to college athletics as a joke. Each lesson is said kind of in a quirky way. At least I think they're funny. I don't know. The one about being authentic, it says, if you want to win a conference championship, come out of the closet. Yeah. And it's all about being your genuine, authentic self. And people can sniff out inauthenticity. And so the lesson itself is steeped in my experience of being a college coach for several years and kind of hiding my personal life and not lying, just not being totally upfront, skirting around it, And I started the program at Seton Hall, and I had met my now wife, Kat, that same year, and the team always knew I had a quote friend, Kat, and it was obvious. They knew who she was, but I never was really upfront about it. Mm-hmm. And finally, I decided to tell the team my truth, and I feel like I became a more authentic, genuine coach just by sharing, this is actually my fiance. We're getting married next year. And the team really respected the fact that I was no longer hiding. And I felt more comfortable in my own skin. I could just be real. And it's not like I shared all of my personal life with them. This one thing that was always hanging over, and so the joke is like, I came out of the closet to the team. The next year we had one of our best year and we won our first conference championship. So, I think it's kind of a fun story to tell. I am sure it is not a direct correlation, but I definitely think I was a better coach once I was more authentic with who I am and sharing other things. Like my mother was struggling with bipolar disorder and sharing a little bit about that, sharing about how I think therapy is important, sharing things like that with the team and being more authentic and not just being like here's how to putt. It's like, let's be really authentic. Let's be our true selves. And I think that's one of my favorite ones is you can sniff out inauthenticity. And I think authenticity is something to really gravitate towards. And so I think that's really important, especially as coaches and leaders, to be authentic.
Yeah. I love that lesson, that chapter. I couldn't agree more. There's just this level of authenticity that comes with having better conversations, and you pull more. You get more from people when you have those real conversations. And there was one line, and I can't remember where part of the book or if it was on a blog or something, but you wrote, and you were talking about Kat, your wife, and you wrote, she didn't change who I am. She helped me create the space to love who I am. And I think that just speaks volumes of the type of relationship and support that you have at home, and that you're able to take that in all aspects of your life.
Yeah. And that's another modeling behavior, right? Like showing that I'm in a very committed, healthy relationship. I can't say that about all of my past relationships, as I'm sure we all can attest to, just trying to figure that stuff out. But I think that's really important and it goes along with being, you want to be your authentic self and then surround yourself with people that are going to allow you to be that person. And so that's the type of stuff I work with, even student athletes. I have more student athletes come in my office crying about things that have nothing to do with the sport of golf than I would like to admit. But those are the gold moments where they come in and they just want to talk about a relationship, and you help guide them and realize that maybe that relationship is not a healthy one. But you let them get to that. Like, it's not about telling them what to do. It's about asking the questions like, what is this relationship bringing to you? And then you see them end up like changing that relationship, and they're happier on the other side, and they come thank you for guiding them. Like, that's the stuff. That's the stuff that's really important, is modeling good relationships and then helping them create those. So
yeah, I circled that one too. And then the other one I really, really loved was the straight uphill mile. Is that in the book, or is that part of a blog? Where you're talking about you're running a blog. You're running a half marathon, and this woman tells you just keep going. But you can run a mile,
Yeah, I actually, that was a blog. Yeah, I wrote that. I try to drop a blog once a week with one small concept, and everything I do is about making daily intentional choices or paying attention to the things in your life that matter to get to where you want to go. And that's the one. Is there's this woman, my first half marathon, humble brag, I ran a half marathon. And it was in State College when I was an assistant coach, and it was cold, and we were right at the end. And there was this woman that ran by me with her young daughter, who was probably like 9, and they're running past me. And I'm about to stop, and I'm thinking about quitting. And she just turned and said, "You got this. Keep going. You can run a mile. You can do this." And she just kept going. And I have never forgotten about her. And just those words, keep going. You've got this. She doesn't know. I've never seen her before. Never seen her since. Like, And those words, just saying, you got this, keep going. It's just a little bit of encouragement. And I figured my way up that hill and I finished my first one.
Well, it immediately made me think of, okay, what are my straight uphill miles? I mean, we all have them, right? Yeah. Sara, in addition to leading your program at USF, what's next for you? I mean, will there maybe be another book or?
Yeah. If I have anything to say about it, there will be. I actually, in this book that I write that we've been discussing, Your Future Self Will Thank You, behind every, I call them lessons, not chapters. So behind every lesson, there is a journal page with prompt questions based in that lesson for the reader to really do a deep dive into how that fits into their life. So what I've done is I've created a workbook to go with this book. So it's just something that you can use side by side with this book. So that is actually coming out in the next 2 weeks or so. By the time this podcast drops, actually, it might be out. And I have some other things I want to do with the Your Future Self Will Thank You vibe. Like I'm thinking about Your Future Self Will Thank You daily, where I do like 100 quick chapters of just like a lesson or a concept to really motivate someone. And my sister is a fourth grade teacher, and we're talking about doing a kids book in relation to this. Maybe Your Future Self Will Thank You kids edition or something like that. I don't know. I have a lot more to say, so I'm excited about it.
You've never been accused of not having much to say, and
that is true.
Doel, I want a calendar version, like one of those desktop calendar versions where you rip it off, and it's like, okay, my life is better because I just read my daily calendar excerpt.
You heard it here first. That is brilliant. I'm on it.
Okay. I can't wait for that one. All right, so let's wrap this thing up. But I want to ask you one more question because you're so passionate about student athletes and our next generation, and that could be next generation of coaches, of leaders, just contributors to society. What is the final message or challenge that you would leave with them?
I would say, honestly, there's only one of you. And so the world deserves the best of you, whatever it is that you have to give to the world. No one else can do it. There's only one Marci Kornegay, right? There's only one of me, thank God, right? I think it's really just remembering there's only one of you. There's only one of you that has this opportunity to lead the team that you coach, or to guide your children, or to guide your friends or your siblings, and to live the best life that you can. So like the world deserves your best. So figure out what that is and go do it every single day.
I love that. Basically wear your own shoes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun and enlightening, and it's so much fun to talk to a friend in this environment.
Well, I appreciate that we have stayed in touch over several years, and you've inspired me from afar when you did that hike across the nation. What was it, the Appalachian Trail? I was watching you from afar, and I'm like, man, maybe I'll do that someday. I haven't yet, but it takes a lot of us to motivate others, even if people don't realize that they have. So
yeah,
it's just important.
Yeah, absolutely. Just colored a new page of the coloring book and just showing the world that there's things out there that they can do that they didn't even know that they could do. It's amazing how inspiration works across the country.
Absolutely.
No, thanks for that. Well, we end every episode with rapid fire questions, and I hope that these questions that I've come up for you don't disappoint. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I didn't hit my knee this time. Let's do this.
Perfect. Okay. So you do mention in the book and in your blogs that, well, basically it's just go to the doctor, go see a doctor. You say that all the time. I think you even end some of your emails that way. Go to the doctor. What's your favorite type of doctor to visit?
Oh, my favorite type of doctor to visit? My dentist, because I'm friends with her and I love her and she is kind and gentle.
Okay. What's your least favorite?
Actually, I don't know. I mean, my first gut was to say the gynecologist because it's awkward and weird, but also, I don't know. I guess that's my answer because that's the first thing that came in.
Perfect. Yeah, rapid fire. First thing that comes to mind. Okay. Is there a lesson that you hope to experience that you haven't yet that you could write about in a future book?
A lesson?
A future lesson. You haven't even experienced it yet, but something maybe you hope you can, so that you can share it with the rest of the world.
Wow. Okay. The first thing I thought of was jumping out of a plane and how to do that, because I'm scared to death of jumping out of a plane. And so the lesson there being like, don't let something completely hold you back. And sometimes I do that where I have this big idea and I'm afraid to do the jump. So either I'm jumping out of a plane or I'm going to jump into something new.
Okay, jump into something over this next year, and then when you create the desktop calendar, will you put that lesson as my birthday? That's May 1st.
May 1st.
All right. Okay, so if it weren't for golf or coaching or life coaching, anything in this arena, what would you be doing?
I would be a therapist, hands down.
What would you ask for if you could ask for anything on your next birthday?
I didn't want it to come off as like super materialistic, but literally I would love to have a personal chef so that I don't have to cook anymore, because I'm tired of trying to figure out creative, healthy meals.
Well, that's fair. That serves everybody that's going to come and eat with you. So that's very,
True.
very giving.
Come on over.
That's right. Okay, so here's the last question. Who gets the majority of your attention after a long, hard day? Your dachshund, Mr. Harvey Milk, or your wife, Cat?
The right answer is my wife. The actual answer is my dog, Mr. Harvey Milk, because that was the answer I was thinking before you even gave me options. He is sitting right next to me. Yes, I just love him. Also, hi, Cat. Hi, Cat. My wife's name is Cat, so the dog and the cat are the two most important in my life.
I love it. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your time, your wisdom, and sharing your thoughts with us. Certainly appreciate you being on the show today, and I, of course, appreciate your friendship and that we've, all the stories that we've shared through the years. I'm really excited for you, and I totally believe in what you're doing and wish you nothing but the best.
Well, I appreciate that, and don't forget, go to the doctor. Your future self will thank you.
I knew that was coming. Thanks for listening to today's episode, and thanks to our podcast partners, Huddle and Wisp Sports. Make sure to follow us on social media for a list of our upcoming events, and check us out online at WeCOACHsports.org to learn more about how you can be engaged in our women coaches community, and of course, be a WeCOACH member. As a reminder, WeCOACH is a nonprofit membership-based organization existing to support women coaches of all sports and levels. Until next time, all sports, one voice, WeCOACH.